Have you ever caught yourself doing something, a certain phrase, how you react under pressure, or maybe the way you handle money? And you have that sudden thought, oh my God, I'm turning into my mother, or that is exactly what my dad would do. Well, those moments, they aren't just weird coincidences. They're actually echoes of these super deep family patterns. And today, we're going to dive into a really powerful way to understand and maybe even break those cycles. It's kind of a heavy question, right? It really feels like we inherit so much more than just our eye color or our last name. We get the habits, the anxieties, the unresolved stuff. But are we actually doomed to repeat it all? Is this whole inheritance thing a life sentence, or is there a way out? So, to really get our heads around this, we're looking at a modern Korean philosophical framework that sees these patterns in a totally different light. It suggests this isn't just about psychology. It's more like a kind of study or knowledge that gets passed down through the family line, for better or for worse. And this core idea is called Jul Onen Gongbu. It basically translates to the study that comes down the lineage. And listen, this is not about your DNA or genetics. It's the idea that pretty much everything, our knowledge, our habits, how we see the world, and especially our biggest struggles, gets handed down directly from parent to child, generation after generation. And what's so powerful about this idea is how real it is. This isn't some mystical, abstract energy transfer. Nope. This philosophy argues it happens in the most normal, everyday moments. It's those little unconscious habits a parent has that their kid just soaks up like a sponge and then eventually carries forward themselves. So the way it gets passed on is just direct transmission. The framework puts it super simply. You pass your habits on to your child. That's it. That simple act is what keeps the generational line of behavior going. The good, the bad, and all the stuff that never got figured out. Okay, so if we're all inheriting these patterns, what are we supposed to do about it? Well, this philosophy argues that it's not just your personal problem to deal with. It's actually a collective responsibility. It's a historic mission for our entire generation. And this is where the whole thing shifts from being a huge problem to being a really powerful purpose. The idea is that we, right now, are in this unique position in history. We're not just here to live our own lives, but to actually correct the course for our entire family line. And here it is, the mission, stated in the boldest way possible. You were born to be the one who finally fixes the flawed habits and the wrong ways of thinking passed down from everyone who came before you. It completely reframes your personal struggles as part of this much, much bigger task. This leads to a pretty radical new take on what it even means to honor your ancestors. See, this philosophy says true honor isn't about, repeating old rituals just because. It's about actively solving the exact problems that they struggled with. When you do that, you're not only making their sacrifices meaningful, you're actually helping to resolve their lingering spiritual burden. Okay, so if the mission is to solve these old problems, where in the world do we start? Well, according to this perspective, the first step is a big one. And yeah, for some people, it might be a little controversial. It's this: stop doing what hasn't been working. The logic here is pretty straightforward. If generations of people prayed for help with their suffering, but that suffering just kept getting passed down, then maybe the method itself is the problem. The call to action is to shift away from just passively asking for help and move toward actively, intellectually solving the problem. And the difference between the old way and the new way is, it's huge. On one side, you've got the path of repetition, praying, doing the rituals, and teaching your kids to do the same. But on the other side, you have what this philosophy calls the intellectual's path. That means researching the root cause of the suffering, finding new and practical answers, and then teaching the next generation so they don't have to repeat the same mistakes. Now, the philosophy we're exploring is incredibly direct here. It uses some really strong language, even calling some of these old acts ignorant for a modern intellectual person. The point isn't really to be anti-spirituality, but it's a huge critique of just blindly following traditions without asking, hey, does this actually work? It's a call to evolve our methods. So if we stop leaning on the old ways, what are we supposed to do instead? Well, this framework doesn't just tear down the old ideas. It actually lays out a proactive roadmap for achieving a final resolution, not just for us, but for everyone in our family line, past and present. And here is that action plan. Step 1, research the problem. Get together as a family or a community and figure out the root causes. Step 2, educate your kids with this new, deeper understanding. Step 3,
consciously use that knowledge to break the negative habits in your own life. And the result of all that? By solving the problem for yourself, you actually achieve liberation for your entire ancestral line. How amazing is that? And that incredible final step? It has a name. It's called Heital, or liberation. This is the ultimate goal, the whole point. It's the complete and total resolution of all the inherited struggles, all the negative karma. According to this philosophy, when you achieve Heital, it means that when you eventually pass on, you and the spirits of all your ancestors are finally free. You're at peace, able to truly move on.
So the big takeaway from all of this is just profoundly empowering. It takes this heavy burden of generational trauma and it turns it into a solvable mission. The past doesn't have to dictate the future. The power to write a brand new ending for your entire family's story, it's right here. It's in your hands. And that just leaves us with one last question to really think about. When you look at your own family, your own inherited patterns, your own life, what is the one cycle, the one study that comes down the lineage that you are going to choose to be the one to finally end?